Okay, so a couple weeks ago I shared a picture of a New York strip that I did, and since then I've had a couple conversations with people of exactly how I achieved what I achieved. So I'm going to share that picture here. If you'll see, this is a medium rare New York strip, but if you'll notice, the doneness level of this cut of meat is super uniform all the way throughout the cut. So I think we're more so used to getting, especially with a steak, you know, if this is medium rare, we're used to that medium rare steak being medium rare really only at the center of the cut of meat, where then there's kind of this gradation as it works its way out towards the perimeter of the cut. It's almost more well done at the edges. So that's because generally steaks are done in kind of like an ambient sort of cooking vessel, right? Like an oven or a grill, where we're taking a really high ambient temperature and trying to get an internal specific temperature of the cut of meat, like for instance medium rare, to 135. So we're taking like a 500-degree grill and getting the internal temperature of that meat to 135. But that's why we have that gradation. The whole thing isn't cooked through evenly. So how did I get this so even? I'm going to show you. I'm using a machine right here. This is called a Sous Vide water circulator. And the idea here, I guess the philosophy is that we're going to basically cook the meat in a water bath. Okay, so if I want this cut of meat cooked to an internal temperature of 135 degrees, I'm actually going to set the temperature of this water to 135 degrees, and then I'm going to cook the meat for a much longer duration of time in this water bath. So this is more similar to kind of like the low and slow method of cooking for like smoking brisket or ribs. But in this case, we're going to be using water, a circulating water bath. So this thing is really cool. We can dial the temperature right into whatever we want. Medium rare, I'm going to cook this right at 135 degrees. And then we're just going to turn it on and let it warm up from its ambient room temperature all the way up to 135 degrees. We're going to dunk our meat in, not right into the water. We're going to use, I'm using just a hefty freezer bag. Now, you can do this under a vacuum sealed bag. I have not found that to be necessary. I'm not marinating this meat. There aren't any juices or anything that I'm trying to retain into this. So a Ziploc bag works perfectly fine. Okay, so we're going to get that all set up right now. And today I am also using a New York strip. This came straight from Central Market. It is about a 2-inch thick, prime, all-natural New York strip. So not a lot of fat. It's not that matters for this method, but it's just already been trimmed. And as you can see, it's got a lot of great marbling. So this is going to be a great steak. So we got it in the bag. I'm going to get as much air out as I possibly can so it doesn't float. We're going to drop it right in here. I'm going to use some little clips just to keep it from rotating in the circulation. And then we're going to let this go for right at about an hour. Okay, so I've left this in for about an hour and 20 minutes. I was going to do it right at an hour, but as thick as that steak is, I wanted to give it a little extra time to make sure it cooked all the way through. Now, the difference is, you know, if you were to leave a steak on a grill or in an oven for an extra 20 minutes, in the end, you would have a piece of shoe leather. Leaving it in extra time in the sous vide method does not change the doneness of the meat. It's still going to be cooked to an internal temperature of 135 degrees. The only thing that's going to change is the longer you leave it in is the texture of the meat. It's actually going to begin to break down more and more. So it's going to be a softer, more tender cut. But an hour 20 minutes is a super normal amount of time to leave it in. So let's go ahead and get this out. Just going to turn it off so it stops circulating. This is really hot. Use a pair of tongs. All right, You want to move kind of quick. I've got a cast iron skillet going, so we're going to do it's called a reverse sear. So sort of backwards to how you do it, especially like on a grill, where you sear it first and then cook it. We're cooking it and then we're going to sear it. So we're just going to do a salt and pepper, nice heavy coating on both sides. Black peppercorns are going to give us a really nice char when we put it in the cast iron skillet. So I've got butter melting over there, and we're just going to do a little bath of the butter. So this is going to end up really nice. You want to move quick. You don't want to let it rest too long here. We're going to let it rest when we're done in the butter bath. All right, so we got our butter bath going here. This thing's really hot. So I'm just going to take our steak. We're just going to do about 30 seconds per side. Meanwhile, I'm just dressing the butter all over this thing. This is going to give us a really nice char on the outside. So this turned out absolutely fantastic. The consistency of it is just amazing. It's almost hard to cut through. It's so tender. It's almost like the consistency of a prime rib. So it's so moist and tender that it just kind of mushes when you go to cut into it. But just awesome. I think the only thing I would do differently next time is probably do a little bit more of a char on the cast iron skillet, just to get a little bit more of a bark on the outside. But otherwise, just super moist, super tender, tons of flavor, and all comes directly from the meat. Really easy. This whole thing took like an hour and a half, and most of it was just letting the sous vide do its job. But great way to do a steak. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to y'all later.